Alright, let's dance here. I haven't got this quite all the way done, but I'm kind of working on my technique to it a little bit here. Obviously, this is a hot mess garbage of what you would do. I would need the logic of colors and a bit of a programming scheme to improve this quite considerably, or how well I use the binary system of what is trending for certain horizontal point metrics, vertical hard lines. Obviously, your vertical are going to be your biggest base calculations, and you want to go M1, M2, M3 in terms of something that is quantifiable. To do the whole mountain, this is going to take a little while. From the day scheme at this black hole right here, but we may want to make that indicator somewheres. We would want a little bit of the M1 metrics to go off of here, and being able to recognize whether that's a max line, a 5-year line, a 1-year metrics, a 3-month metrics, a 1-month metrics, a 5-day metrics. And you would have to do this throughout the entirety of the mountain, or at least in theory. Well, why? Well, and there's nothing really to start here in the initial, but we may want to be able to do things in here. As you can see, it's generally going to be, I think that was the 5-year numbers. Yeah. Actually, I drove her back and we did the 5-year numbers on this one. You would want to take that all the way back to the beginning, right? You know, what is the difference of the 5-year numbers and the max numbers? Well, from here, you're going to have some big old indicators, which is really too big at this mountain level to really say, here's a high point, here's a high point, here's a low point. You're going to get a couple of big base waves, which actually starts your calculation. You need them, but you don't really need them. I mean, this is initial early on in terms of what it has for its initial date inside of the system, so that's going to change things quite considerably about other mountain schemes. And let's see what we got here. American Eagle, sure. If we take a look at it real quick. Come on, you can do it, little one. And how I might tackle this, but and essentially we'll be coming back through this mechanism and discerning which variable, and this is a mess with Weebles. It's not really great. You would want to develop a better program and systems to determine colors, prime values, so that way when I scale over it centers it and gives me which indicator it is, because that's going to be quite a bit in the fine tech about, you know, how well that this wave function is actually applying into the metrics when we go back into something like that. What was Bank of America was the other one we did? I'm keeping the Americans in line here as far as what it is. Oh, look at this. I started something. I'm working on something. I need to delete all this and start over. But I took that methodology and I brought it over here to, where's American Airlines? Here, American Airlines? There you are. I figured why not? You go through the list, see what they are, if there's any reason to be in it by virtue of then using this to do some Excel programming in fine tech, you know, economic fine techs. You know, we could go through here and discern those metrics. Basically work our way to the black hole. Okay, where are we? So we got some work here to do, and I had this all done. I actually stretched it back. Now, for the most part, you can just kind of come through your main wave, start with your 5-year or something like that, drill her all the way back to the beginning of time here, because I think that these are all 5-year indicators. What's the high? What's the low? Where's some indicating points for value shifts inside of there? And you would want to do something like 5-year high notes, 5-year low notes. And once you start from this side of the graphic, all these extra lines, you know, you're going to see, oh, that was where the start point was. This, oh, well, these are obviously my baseline for everything inside here. The only lines that really made for the peaks. At any rate, then you get in here to 5-year lines. These are all kind of major indicators that fall between these points on that system. So it's telling me volume trades at these points are starting to pick up, either high or low, up or down. Remember, handedness and spin is going to be real important to quantum physicists inside here. And things are going to open up and change in scale, which is going to change that volume. But generally, you could say, hey, those are hard lines. They're hitting real good. The volume trades inside of there of whether it'll have momentum later on or not, to not want to go, the volume down here is compelling to what it is up here. Well, meanwhile, we're starting to catch one of those pockets inside of there where nobody knew really how to trade it or why to trade it. You know, up here, we're catching a lot of systems. And when we get down here to the year indicator, see if we can scroll back a little bit. Make sure you get these measurements right. You want to try to keep it inside of something that's like a year while you're bolting this beast. At least I find that to be sensible. So that way I can say in even increments when I'm dialing her back to see what you always generally want to start with your way back. It's just when you get to these 3 months and stuff on such a long company, it's not really practical. And to be truth be told, I really wouldn't need to. I just need the biggest. I would just really need to take it back to how volume trading's here. Now this is going to be ripped up and away. And here I have a lot, and in here I not a lot to work with in terms of what this mountain's been doing in terms of these mountain schemes. So I would have to come back all the way over to here to make sure that I'm actually indicating inside of the range. But what happens if next time we do the calc and she is farther down the way? Well, how do I then recreate this experiment to make sure that she's up here? It's saying in depth, but not necessarily for the moment. I got to be able to say, well, these are the 5 years for the moment, and I need to prime value that or zenith value that. So that way, let's get back to a better view here. So that way, inside of other regions, I would have a more compressed set to deal with the probability in those indexes. But essentially, it's going to go this way. As we do the 5-day back to about this point, if the momentum was to say up in this American Airlines situation, then I would have a better metrics while dealing with that. If down, I would want to use something within the range that makes sure that I'm as compressed to that value as physically possible across all the trades that really has ever been done in that section. Now, not to say that it wouldn't like it, but mathematically speaking, in what bulls around the farm and how that plays out, it's probably 2/3 more likely to do something like that inside of those ranges than it is to not. Right? She's going to get trading on levels inside of here. Right now, she's kind of snuck in the middle. I couldn't find a pin, and this runs all the way back, at least from the 5-day. If there was a hard line max 5-year, 3-month, which you can't really see in here, right? You're not really going to know what's what until you hit one of those lines where it's like, oh, wow, that's a big old baseline, or at least the last set that I knew. And so again, on something like Weebles, this is not going to be very applicable, let's say the best. But if you're good enough with binary, right, you're good enough with the setup inside here, you would know how to readjust. Now this right here, this calculation is going to give you a lot of insight on the legwork that you would have to do of knowing what this stock is, not knowing the CEOs, not knowing the other things like this. This will give you the 2/3 of the calculation that you need to really say, well, mathematically, this is not a sure thing to as far as ripping away. And at the price, given what this is, I don't see her going much lower, but I can't really say that she would stay. There might be a lot of reasons where we could use one of these strings later as leverage for percentage and actually operating inside of one of those systems, which, while dealing with other profiles, at least at a governmental level, may be necessary, useful and interesting, at least, to deal with what it is we might be dealing with. If something comes up, that's a hard monster to deal with right there as far as what it is and how long. Well, that's actually not too bad, really. They've been on the number, but I'm telling that is quite a bit of difference. Quite a bit of, I don't know who or why, but a lot of people are going to be hung to stuff like that. And you want to not want to do credit for it. It's like, well, that's more of a reason to do these. More people hurt here than there is in other ones, and I can't move them and do things. And it allows you to encourage the wrong things, let's say. So at any rate, that was my note. I hope somebody can do something with that. Get on it.